All right, this is an undramatic, non-ironic reading of the NIST 800-171 Revision 2 requirements. And if you would like audio only, check the link in the description. And if you want the link to the original document at the .gov website, check the link in the description. 3.1.1. Limit system access to authorized users, processes acting on behalf of authorized users, and devices, including other systems. 3.1.2. Limit system access to the types of transactions and functions that authorized users are permitted to execute. 3.1.3. Control the flow of CUI in accordance with approved authorizations. 3.1.4. Separate the duties of individuals to reduce the risk of malevolent activity without collusion. 3.1.5. Employ the principle of least privilege, including for specific security functions and privileged accounts. 3.1.6. Use non-privileged accounts or roles when accessing non-security functions. 3.1.7. Prevent non-privileged users from executing privileged functions and capture the execution of such functions in audit logs. 3.1.8. Limit unsuccessful logon attempts. 3.1.9. Provide privacy and security notices consistent with applicable CUI rules. 3.1.10. Use session lock with pattern hiding displays to prevent access and viewing of data after a period of inactivity. 3.1.11. Terminate a user session after a defined period or defined condition. That is 3.1.11, terminate, in parentheses, automatically a user session after a defined condition. 3.1.12. Monitor and control remote access sessions. 3.1.13. Employ cryptographic mechanisms to protect the confidentiality of remote access sessions. 3.1.14. Route remote access via managed access control points. 3.1.15. Authorize remote execution of privileged commands and remote access to security relevant information. 3.1.15, again, because I read that weird. Authorize remote execution of privileged commands and remote access to security relevant information. 3.1.16. Authorize wireless access prior to allowing such connections. 3.1.17. Protect wireless accounts using authentication and encryption. 3.1.18. Control connection of mobile devices. 3.1.19. Encrypt CUI on mobile devices and mobile computing platforms. 3.1.20. Verify and control or limit connections to and use of external systems. 3.1.21. Limit use of portable storage devices on external systems. 3.1.22. Control CUI posted or processed on publicly accessible systems. 3.2.1. Ensure that managers, system administrators, and users of organizational systems are made aware of the security risks associated with their activities and of the applicable policies, standards, and procedures related to the security of those systems. 3.2.2. Ensure that personnel are trained to carry out their assigned information security-related duties and responsibilities. 3.2.3. Provide security awareness training on recognizing and reporting potential indicators of insider threat. 3.3.1. Create and retain system audit logs and records to the extent needed to enable the monitoring, analysis, investigation, and reporting of unlawful or unauthorized system activity. 3.3.2. Ensure that the actions of individual system users can be uniquely traced to those users so they can be held accountable for their actions. 3.3.3. Review and update logged events. 3.3.4. Alert in the event of an audit logging process failure. 3.3.5. Correlate audit record. 3.3.5. Correlate audit record review, analysis, and reporting processes for investigation and response to indications of unlawful, unauthorized, suspicious, or unusual activity. Thank you very much. 3.3.6. Provide audit record reduction and report generation to support on-demand analysis and reporting. 3.3.7. Provide a system capability that compares and synchronizes internal system clocks with an authoritative source to generate timestamps for audit records. 3.3.8. Protect audit information and audit logging tools from unauthorized access, modification, and deletion. 3.3.9. Limit management of audit logging functionality to a subset of privileged users. 3.4.1. Establish and maintain baseline configurations and inventories of organizational systems throughout the respective system development life cycles. And in parentheses, that is including hardware, software, firmware, and documentation. 3.4.2. Establish and enforce security configuration settings for information technology products employed in organizational systems. 3.4.3. Track, review, approve or disapprove, and log changes to organizational systems. 3.4.4. Analyze the security impact of changes prior to implementation. 3.4.5. Define, document, approve, and enforce physical and logical access restrictions associated with changes to organizational systems. 3.4.6. Employ the principle of least functionality by configuring organizational systems to provide only essential capabilities. 3.4.7. Restrict, disable, or prevent the use of non-essential programs, functions, ports, protocols, and services. 3.4.8. Apply deny by exception policy to prevent the use of unauthorized software, or deny all permit by exception policy to allow the execution of authorized software. In parentheses, they're noting it's either blacklisting or whitelisting policy. 3.4.9. Control and monitor user-installed software. Always a good idea. 3.5.1. Identify system users, processes acting on behalf of users, and devices. 3.5.2. Authenticate or verify the identities of users, processes, or devices as a prerequisite to allowing access to organizational systems. 3.5.3. Use multi-factor authentication for local and network access to privileged accounts and for network access to non-privileged accounts. 3.5.4. Employ replay-resistant authentication mechanisms for network access to privileged and non-privileged accounts. 3.5.5. Prevent reuse of identifiers for a defined period. 3.5.6. Disable identifiers after a defined period of inactivity. 3.5.7. Enforce a minimum password complexity and change of characters when new passwords are created. 3.5.8. Prohibit password reuse for a specified number of generations. 3.5.9. Allow temporary password use for system logons with an immediate change to a permanent password. 3.5.10. Store and transmit only cryptographically protected passwords. 3.5.11. Obscure feedback of authentication information. Interesting. What's really interesting is what's not in there. 3.6.1. Establish an operational incident handling capability for organizational systems that includes preparation, detection, analysis, containment, recovery, and user response activities. 3.6.2. Track, document, and report incidents to designated officials and or authorities, both internal and external to the organization. 3.6.3. Test the organizational incident response capability. 3.7.1. Perform maintenance on organizational systems. 3.7.2. Provide controls on the tools, techniques, mechanisms, and personnel used to conduct system maintenance. 3.7.3. Ensure equipment removed for off-site maintenance is sanitized of any CUI. 3.7.4. Check media containing diagnostic and test programs for malicious code before the media are used in organizational systems. 3.7.5. Require multi-factor authentication to establish non-local maintenance sessions via external network connections and terminate such connections when non-local maintenance is complete. 3.7.6. Supervise the maintenance activities of maintenance personnel without required access authorization. 3.8.1. Protect system media containing CUI, both paper and digital. In parentheses, that protect is physically control and securely store. 3.8.2. Limit access to CUI on system media to authorized users. 3.8.3. Sanitize or destroy system media containing CUI before disposal or release for reuse. 3.8.4. Mark media with necessary CUI markings and distribution limitations. 3.8.5. Control access to media containing CUI and maintain accountability for media during transport outside of controlled areas. 3.8.6. Implement cryptographic mechanisms to protect the confidentiality of CUI stored on digital media during transport, unless otherwise protected by alternative physical safeguards. 3.8.7. Control the use of removable media on system components. That sounds like something your parents would yell at you. Would you control the use of that removable media on those system components? 3.8.8. Prohibit the use of portable storage devices on such devices when such devices have no identifiable owner. So 3.8.8, let's try that again. Prohibit the use of portable storage devices when such devices have no identifiable owner. 3.8.9. Protect the confidentiality of backup CUI at storage locations. 3.9.1. Screen individuals prior to authorizing access to organizational systems containing CUI. 3.9.2. Ensure that organizational systems containing CUI are protected during and after personnel actions such as terminations and transfers. 3.10.1. Limit physical access to organizational systems, equipment, and the respective operating environments to authorized individuals. 3.10.2. Protect and monitor the physical facility and support infrastructure for organizational systems. 3.10.3. Escort visitors and monitor visitor activity. 3.10.4. Maintain audit logs of physical access. 3.10.5. Control and manage physical access devices. 3.10.6. Enforce safeguarding measures for CUI at alternate work sites. 3.11.1. Periodically assess the risk to organizational operations, organizational assets, and individuals resulting from the operation of organizational systems and the associated processing, storage, or transmission of CUI. In parentheses, when we're talking about periodically assessing the risk to organizational operations, we have noted including mission, functions, image, or reputation. 3.11.2. Scan for vulnerabilities in organizational systems and applications periodically and when new vulnerabilities affecting those systems and applications are identified. 3.11.3. Remediate vulnerabilities in accordance with risk assessments. 3.12.1. Periodically assess the security controls and organizational systems to determine if the controls are effective in their application. 3.12.2. Develop and implement plans of action designed to correct deficiencies and reduce or eliminate vulnerabilities in organizational systems. 3.12.3. Monitor security controls on an ongoing basis to ensure the continued effectiveness of the controls. 3.12.4. Develop, document, and periodically update system security plans that describe system boundaries, system environments of operation, how security requirements are implemented, and the relationships with or connected to other systems. 3.13.1. Monitor, control, and protect communications at the external boundaries and key internal boundaries of organizational systems. In parentheses, monitor, control, and protect communications, in other words, information transmitted or received by organizational systems. 3.13.2. Employ architectural designs, software development techniques, and systems engineering principles that promote effective information security within organizational systems. 3.13.3. Separate user functionality from system management functionality. 3.13.4. Prevent unauthorized and unintended information transfer via shared system resources. 3.13.5. Implement subnetworks for publicly accessible system components that are physically or logically separated from internal networks. 3.13.6. Deny network communication traffic by default and allow network communication traffic by exception. In parentheses, in other words, deny all, permit by exception. 3.13.7. Prevent remote devices from simultaneously establishing non-remote connections with organizational systems and communicating via some other connection to resources in external networks. In parentheses, in other words, split tunneling is what's being targeted there. 3.13.8. Implement cryptographic mechanisms to prevent unauthorized disclosure of CUI during transmission unless otherwise protected by alternative physical safeguards. 3.13.9. Terminate network connections associated with communication sessions at the end of the session or after a defined period of inactivity. 3.13.10. Establish and manage cryptographic keys for cryptography employed in organizational systems. 3.13.11. Employ FIPS validated cryptography when used to protect the confidentiality of CUI. Let's see, FIPS, Foxtrot, India, Papa, Sierra, FIPS validated cryptography. 3.13.12. Prohibit remote activation of collaborative computing devices and provide indication of devices in use to users present at the device. 3.13.13. Control and monitor the use of mobile code. 3.13.14. Control and monitor the use of Voice over Internet Protocol or VoIP technologies. 3.13.15. Protect the authenticity of communication sessions. 3.13.16. Protect the confidentiality of CUI at rest. 3.14, the last section here. 3.14.1. Identify, report, and correct system flaws in a timely manner. 3.14.2. Provide protection from malicious code at designated locations within organizational systems. 3.14.3. Monitor system security alerts and advisories and take action in response. 3.14.4. Update malicious code protection mechanisms when new releases are available. 3.14.5. Perform periodic scans of organizational systems and real-time scans of files from external sources as files are downloaded, opened, or executed. 3.14.6. Monitor organizational systems, including inbound and outbound communication traffic, to detect attacks and indicators of potential attacks. 3.14.7. Identify unauthorized use of organizational systems. And with that concludes the reading, non-dramatic, non-ironic reading of the NIST 800-171 Rev 2. Again, if you would like the actual text, the link is in the description, and the link to audio only if you're looking for something to help you sleep or want the most boring podcast in the history of ever, also in the description. Thanks.